Hey everyone, it's Dave from Dave's Ohio Barbecue. White Castle, the Porcelain Palace. They make these little hamburgers. They're called sliders. You either love them, or you hate them, or you never tried them. But either way, I'm going to show you how to make them. Stick around. So White Castle, you may not have them in your area. They're more of an East Coast phenomenon. They're headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. They've been around, I think, since before the 1920s. I believe they're the oldest fast food restaurant in America, if not one of the oldest. And they make these little tiny square hamburgers called sliders. They're kind of different. They're not grilled. They're not broiled. They're steamed beef, right? But it works. Something about them, they're these soft, kind of just oniony burgers. Now, there's a lot of ways you can get White Castle burgers. If you have a White Castle near you, obviously you can just go buy them. They also sell them in most freezer sections in the supermarket, so you can buy them ready-made and microwave them or heat them up in the oven, and there you go. But me, I want to make them fresh, so that's what I'm going to do today. So I'm going to show you how to make them today. It's really not that hard, although you do need to do a little prep beforehand. So the ingredients for this recipe, you're going to need an onion, you're going to need a pound of beef, you're going to need some kosher dill pickles, just the chips, the round ones, a little bit of salt, pepper, onion powder, and some slider buns. And that's it. Now I'm going to be cooking this on my griddle today, but you can do any of this on a frying pan or inside on an electric griddle. It works fine on all of that. You don't need to have a Blackstone griddle in order to do this. So one of the things that makes White Castle burgers, unique is the fact that they are steamed on top of a bed of onions. And to start, we're going to chop up an onion. Now, the actual White Castle, from what I read, they use dehydrated onions and they minced onions, and they rehydrate it in water before they put it on the grill. I have an onion laying around, so I'm just going to chop up a whole onion, and I'm going to dice it pretty fine. You want to have, really kind of small, almost minced pieces of onion. I'm going to put it in a bowl, and then I'm going to fill that bowl, or at least cover the onions with some water and just let them soak there. The key to this recipe is that when you put the onions on the griddle, you really want them to produce some steam. So for now, I'm just going to let the onions soak there, so they, even if my onion was partially, getting dry, it'll soak up some water and it'll be nice and juicy when I put them on my griddle. As for the beef, regular store-bought beef, I find, tends to have a little bit too thick of a grind for making White Castle burgers. You really want a fine, almost, I hate to use the word paste because paste and beef kind of is disgusting, but you almost want your beef to be almost like a paste, like a pate consistency. So I have 1 pound of beef. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my food processor. I'm going to add a couple grinds of salt, I'm going to add a couple grinds of black pepper, and then I'm going to put a half teaspoon of onion powder in there just to kind of amplify that onion flavor that the sliders are so known for. I'm going to run it for about 30 seconds, and then I'll scrape down the sides and run it for another 10 or 15. And you see I have this really, really, thin paste. It's easier to work with this when it's cold, so I'm going to stash it back in the fridge for a little while before I, start rolling it out into the consistency I need for the patties. So there's really not much on these burgers except if you have a traditional one, it's just beef, onion, and a bun with a dill pickle on top. You can also add cheese to it, and that's what I'm going to do today. But the traditional White Castle sliders, onion, beef, pickle between 2 buns. I went to the supermarket and found some slider buns. Petridge Farm had slider buns. It's a pretty common thing. If you can't find those, usually dinner rolls work, but you're looking for a white, preferably squarish roll that's, about 2 inches by 2 inches, maybe a little bit bigger, 3 by 3 at the most. So the patties themselves, I looked on White Castle's website, are 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So I started by taking a piece of parchment paper, put the beef down on the parchment paper, and then put another sheet on top. And I used a rolling pin. You're looking to roll out the beef to a thickness of about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, somewhere in between there. From 1 pound of beef, you should get 18 hamburger patties. I know that sounds like a lot, right? So each burger is less than an ounce. So once I have it rolled out flat here, I've got a little measuring guide on my knife here, my little slicer knife, and I'm going to measure off 2.5 inches and kind of chop them up into a grid. Another thing that they have on these burgers is there's 5 holes in each burger patty. There's 1 in each corner, and then there's 1 in the middle. So it sort of looks like a die that you would roll, if you were gambling or something. They say that those holes let the steam come through and, you know, warm up the buns, and you'll see that in a minute. I think White Castle was looking for a way to, you know, get more patties with less beef, but what do I know? Once I have all 18 of these all kind of, you know, sliced up and scored, they don't really have to be broken apart. I'm going to chuck them in the freezer for about an hour because I really want these things to firm up really hard so I can just kind of snap them apart. I'm not going to make all 18 burgers today. If I tried to eat 18 burgers, I would explode. So I'm going to make 3 burgers today for lunch and go from there. So you start by heating up the griddle to, you know, medium-high heat. Let it get warm, and then I'm going to dump about half the onions I had on there onto the pan and make a bed. It's really handy to have some sort of spray bottle or some sort of squirt bottle with water in it, just so they can keep adding water to the griddle to make sure it keeps steaming. Okay? I put my 3 beef patties down there, and what I'm waiting for now is I'm waiting for them to get, you know, done around the edges. Once they get, you know, sort of that gray, you know, cooked hamburger color around the edge of these patties, I'm going to take the bottom of the slider buns and I'm going to put them face down on top of the burger. Okay? So you want the buns to steam as well because that softens them up, and that's just all part of the experience. Once all the bottoms are on, I take the tops and I'm going to lean them on as well. So you cook them, you know, all in all for probably about 5 minutes. It doesn't really take very long for them to steam done, especially once you put the bun on top. It kind of traps the heat in there and the rest of the burger cooks through really well. When you're done, just take a spatula. You're going to scoop the onions up underneath the burger patty, put your hand on the bottom bun and just flip it over. If you want cheese on it, this is where you slap a piece of cheese on there. Now, you don't want to use anything fancy. This is White Castle, all right? They're not slapping Gouda on their hamburgers or anything. This is just straight up like American cheese. In fact, it's the American cheese that came out of the plastic wrappers. You just want something that's gooey and melts real easy. So at this point, I put the cheese on top of there, and then you put 1 round dill pickle slice on top, put the top of the bun on, and you're finished. If you want to add condiments, mustard, ketchup, whatever, go for it. I just like eating them plain like this. And if you truly, truly want to be authentic, you have to have some crinkle fries go along with this, because that's sort of like a White Castle standby is the crinkle fry. And there you have it, White Castle sliders with crinkle fries. They taste just like I remember from when I was a kid. I feel like if I eat more than 5 of these, I'm probably going to be sick. So, you know, about 3 would be good. They are filling, and they are interesting, and they are unique. And if you don't have a White Castle near you, then I suggest you try this. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure you follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Dave's Ohio Barbecue. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and press that little bell next to it so you get notifications. I have a lot of videos coming out, so every time I post one, you'll get notified when it's up and live. Also, if you have any comments, leave them down below. You know, I have a lot of people ask me questions, and actually that's sometimes how I get ideas for videos. So by all means, ask me anything you want. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.